Detective Mark Johnson had been chasing the notorious criminal, Edward Carter, for years. Carter had always managed to stay one step ahead of him, but this time, Mark had him cornered. He had received a tip-off that Carter would be at the abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, and he had rushed there with his team. As they entered the warehouse, they found it eerily quiet. It was as if someone had just vacated the place moments before. They searched the entire building, but there was no sign of Carter. Frustrated, Mark decided to leave when something caught his eye. There was a small door hidden behind a stack of crates. It was barely visible, but Mark knew that this was the break he had been waiting for. He motioned to his team, and they cautiously made their way to the door. As they opened the door, they were hit by a strong smell. It was the stench of death. The room was dark, but they could see a figure slumped against the wall. Mark slowly approached the figure and was horrified to see that it was Carter. He had been brutally murdered. Mark was stunned. He had finally caught the man he had been chasing for so long, but it was too late. He wondered who could have done this to Carter. He looked around the room and noticed something strange. There was a small camera in the corner of the room. Mark watched the footage, and his blood ran cold. It was him on the screen. He was the one who murdered Carter. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. How could he have done something like this? He had no recollection of ever being in that room. Mark watched the footage, and his blood ran cold. It was him on the screen. He was the one who murdered Carter. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. How could he have done something like this? He had no recollection of ever being in that room. Mark realized that he had been set up. Someone had framed him for the murder of Edward Carter. He had to clear his name, but he had no idea who was behind this. He knew that he had to act fast before the real killer got away. Mark began to investigate and soon discovered that the real killer was someone he had known for years. It was his partner, Detective Jameson. Jameson had been jealous of Mark's success and had framed him for the murder. Mark confronted Jameson, and a brutal fight ensued. Mark managed to overpower Jameson and arrest him. He was cleared of all charges, but the experience had left him shaken. He had trusted Jameson with his life, and he had betrayed him. From that day on, Mark vowed never to trust anyone again. He had learned the hard way that in this world, nobody was to be trusted, and the people you thought you knew could turn out to be your worst enemies.